Hi, and welcome to this session on must-do LRDI sets for your CAT. Whether you're just starting off your CAT preparation or you're revising for the upcoming CAT examination, these are sets that you should not be missing on the way. In today's session, we'll be looking at math-based questions. This is a very broad area of questions. Obviously, there is math involved, but what type of maths is actually involved? Usually, there are three types of key skills which you need, and a lot of questions will require two or maybe all three of these skills, right? So you'll have arithmetic, that's the usual suspect, allegations, percentages, averages. So you have questions where you have a set of mixtures and you have to find a particular mixture, and there are multiple permutations possible for that. Percentage change, percentage drop, concepts like those. Then you have numbers, properties of numbers. So you'll have to fill up a grid or assign scores to multiple students. They are natural numbers, prime numbers, composite numbers, even numbers, perfect squares, perfect cubes, those sort of things. And then you have counting methods. So you have questions which are based on permutation and combination, how many scenarios are possible, how many paths can be drawn, and then probability based questions. So let's get on with these particular questions. If you are running short of time, obviously you can skip to the relevant sets. Each of the videos which you'll be releasing will have links available in the description, where if you click on it, you can skip to the relevant set. 3 pouches, each represented by a filled circle, are kept in each of the 9 slots of a 3x3 grid as shown in the figure. Okay. Every pouch has a certain number of 1 rupee coins. Okay. The minimum and maximum number of coins among the 3 pouches in each of the 9 slots are given in the table. Okay. For example, we know that the 3 pouches kept in second column first row, which is this. The minimum is 6, maximum is 8. We don't know the second one, maximum is 8. So this can be 6, 7 or 8. Right? There are 9 pouches in any columns as well as rows. So 9 here or here. And it is known that the average amount kept in the 9 pouches in any row or any column is an integer. So if we add along the row, it should be an integer. If you add along the column, that should be an integer. Average should be an integer, which means the total should be a multiple of 9, whether you add it column wise or row wise. It is also known that the total amount of money kept in the 3 pouches in the first column of the third row is rupees 4. First column of the third row is 4. So this total amount is 4 rupees here. And based on that, you have all theta questions. What is the total amount of money? How many coins have exactly 1 coin? So you need to figure out for every pouch. What is the number of slots in which with the average is an integer? Okay. What is the number of slots where the total amount is strictly exceeds 10? So we need to figure out all the values here. Okay. So let's check what we can get. Okay, let's start with this. We had 4 here, coins here. Now we have 1 and 2 already. So you have 1, 2. So the third coin should be 1. So 1, 2, 1 or 1, 1, 2, whichever way you want to call it. This is done. Now if you observe this row 2, column 2, right? Minimum is also 1, maximum is also 1, which means all 3 coins should be 1. Total should be 3 in these 3 pouches. Okay, this total is 4. Okay, let's add row wise here. So you have 1, a missing value, and a 2. We don't know what the total is. Here you have 2, a missing value, and a 5. Now if you add up the coins that we already know, you have 4 here, 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 7, 14 coins are already here. Closest multiple of 9 will be 18. Right. You cannot reach 27 because you'll need to add 13. There is no way I can add 13. Right. So 18 is the closest value, which means I need to add 4 coins among these two. How can you add 4 coins among these two? It can be either 1, 3 or 2, 2. Okay. So it can be 1, 3 or 2 and 2. Right. Both of 2 and 2 are possible. 1 and 3 are also possible. Right. Let's add this column wise. If you add this column wise, column 2, this is 6, this is 8. We don't know the missing value. 6 and 8 is 14 we already have. 14 plus 3 is 17. 17 plus 3 is 20. Now the closest multiple of 9 is 27. Can we reach 36? No, 36 will not be possible because this number has to be only 1 or 2. Right? So that is not possible. So 27 is the number. So we need to add 7 more. How can I add 7 more? If I put a 1 here, this should be 6. If I put 2 here, this should be 5. But 5 is not possible because the minimum is 6, which means this number should be 6 and this number should be 1. Right? If this number is 1, then this number should be 3. We have solved both the row as well as the column. So this is 4 total. This is 12 plus 8, 20 total. And this is 10 as a total. Okay, let's look at the smaller number. This number will have a lot of I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. This is a huge number, huge range, so there can be a lot of possibilities. So rather, let's look at column 1. Let's look at the others and then we can figure out this value. Okay, let's look at column 1. You have 3 and 5. You have 2 and 4. Right, so how much is the total that we are getting here? 4 plus 8, 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. 12 plus 6 is 18. We need the closest we can reach is 27. You cannot have zeros here. 27. How can you reach 27? You can have 3 and 6. Not possible. 4 and 5. Possible. 4 and 5 are possible. You can put 5 here, 4 here. Right, 2, 7 is not possible. There is no 7 available. Right. So this we have also solved. This is 10 plus 3, 13. This is 8 plus 2, 10. So these two also we know. Let's try this row now. This is 1 and 3. So 10 plus 20 is 30. 30 plus 3 is 33. So we have to reach 36. 34, right? This is 34. So we have to reach 36, so 2 more. So this is 2. This total is 6. Now let's look at the last one which is left. You have a 6 and a 20 here. Okay, let's try to add row wise. So you have 26 plus 16. 26 plus 16 is 42. Where else can you reach? You can reach 45. You can reach 54. 63. Right, 21 you cannot add, right? So 63 is not possible. 45 you'll need to add 3. 3 is not possible. So 54 is the only one which you can add. So you need to add a 12. Right. So that's 32 plus 6, 38. Right. This is 6. If you add this is 16 plus 38 is 54. This is also satisfies. So we have all the values of all the coins. Let's go and answer the questions one by one. Okay, I've written this down. Let's see. What is the total amount of money in the 3 pouches kept in the first column of the second row? First column, second row. Total amount is 5 plus 5, 10 plus 3, 13. Right. How many pouches contain exactly 1 coin? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pouches contain exactly 1 coin. What is the number of slots in which the average amount in the 3 pouches is an integer? Average should be an integer. We can use this part and figure out, right? Average, so total should be a multiple of 3. So you have 1, 2. 2 of them. Column 3 row 1 and column 2 row 2, right? So 2 of them. And the number of slots in which the total amount strictly exceeds 10. Strictly exceeds 10. It has to exceed 10, right? Again we can use this. This is not the case. That is 1. This is not there. This is 2. This is not there. This is 3. Right? This is not there. This is not there. This is exactly 10. So not there. So 3 of them. Right? So this one, and this one. These 3 will be there. So that completes this particular set. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video.
Now, this is essentially a permutation and combination set. Okay, if you know how to count, okay, then this question is pretty easy, straightforward, not very difficult. Okay, let's see how the question looks like. Okay, a new airline company is planning to start operations in a country. Okay, the company has identified 10 different cities which they plan to connect through their network to start with. The flight duration between any pair of cities will be at least 1 hour. To start operations, the company has to decide on a daily schedule. Okay, so you have 10 cities. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so you have 10 cities to be covered. Okay. Now, each city has to be connected according to this. Okay, the underlying principle they are working on is as follows. Okay, they have these 10 cities which they have identified. This is an underlying principle. Any person in any of these 10 cities should be able to make a trip to any other city in the morning and should be able to return by the evening of the same day. So you should have a morning flight between the given cities and you should have an evening flight also between the given cities. Okay, so let's see how this works. If the underlying principle is to be satisfied in such a way that the journey between any two cities can be performed only using only direct non-stop flights, then what is the minimum number of direct flights to be scheduled? Okay, so you should be able to take a flight from 1 to 3 and you should be able to return from 3 to 1 in the evening. Similarly, you should be able to take a flight from 10 to 7 and should be able to return in the evening. Okay, and this can be, you can probably go from 10 to 7 and probably in the evening you want to go from 7 to 4 also. So there should be connectivity in the morning as well as connectivity in the evening. Now the good part is whatever is a number of flights in the morning, the same will be the return flights also. So if we calculate just the morning flights, we can double it and find the number of evening flights. Okay, so let's calculate the number of morning flights. You need to be able to go from any city to any other city. So from, I have 10 choices, to I have 9 choices. So overall I should have 90 choices in the morning. Similarly, 90 choices in the evening. So total of 90 plus 90, 180 options should be there. So at least 180 flights should be scheduled for this principle to be satisfied. Okay, let's look at the next one. Suppose 3 of the 10 cities are to be developed as hubs. Hub is a city which is connected with every other city by direct flights, both in the morning as well as the evening. Only direct flights which will be scheduled are originating and or terminating in one of the hubs. Then the minimum number of flights required to be scheduled so that the underlying principle to serve all the 10 cities is met. Now you have 3 cities which are hubs and there are other 7 cities. Okay, now any direct flight should be to and from only these cities. Okay, and the flight should either start from any flight should either start from the hub or end from the hub. Now the principle is, again, you should be able to take a trip in the morning as well as take a trip in the evening. Okay, so let's calculate this. Now there are 2 scenarios. One is from hub cities to non-hub cities. Let's see how many flights are there from hub cities to non-hub cities. Okay, in one direction from hub to non-hub, okay, each hub will have 7 flights and the return flights will also be additional 7. So 14 flights from each of the hubs connecting the other city in the morning. One from the hub to the destination city and second is from destination city to the hub. There are 3 such hubs. So 42 morning flights should be there, which are between hubs and non-hub cities. Now let's see what is there between the hubs. Between the hubs, from would be 3, to would be 2, So that will be additional 6 flights. So overall in the morning you need to schedule 48 flights. 48 flights in the morning, 48 flights in the evening, 48 into 2, 96 overall flights are required. Right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, suppose the 10 cities are to be divided into 4 distinct groups: G1, G2, G3, G4, G2, 2 and 2 cities respectively. G1 consists of cities A, B, C. Okay, so you have G1 has A, B and C. You have G2, G3 and G4. Okay, so you have 3 cities in G2, 2 cities in G3 and 2 cities in G4. Okay, now the only flights that are allowed are this cities. If both the cities are in G1, so among G1 flights are allowed as it is. Okay, between A and any city in G2, between A and any city in G2, between B and any city in G3, and C and any city in G4. Remember, it should be both to and from. One time. Morning there should be to and fro flights. Evening also there should be to and fro flights. This is the underlying principle. From any city to in the morning, another city, and same should be in for the evening. Again, let's calculate the morning flights. Between 2 cities in G1, from is 3 options, to is 2 options. So 6 flights have to be scheduled between these cities. Okay, between A and any city in G2. Okay, A and any city in G2. Okay, from A to G2 there will be 3 2 flights and 3 return flights, so 6. B and any city in G3, 2 onward flights and 2 return flights, so 4. Similarly, between C and any city in G4, 2 onward flights, 2 return flights, so 4. So overall 6 plus 6, 12, 12 plus 4, 20 flights in the morning. Again, we have to double this, so 40 flights overall are required to satisfy this criteria. Okay, and the last one says, suppose 10 cities are divided into 4 distinct, just like in the previous one, each having 3, 2 and 2 cities respectively. Says that G1 consists of A, B, C. Okay, again you have A, B, C, you have G2, you have G3 and you have G4. Both cities are in G1. Okay, this is the G1 group, this is the G2 group. There are 3 cities here, 2 cities here and 2 cities here. However, due to operational difficulties at A, it was decided that only flights that would operate from A would be those from to and from B. So only connectivity is to and fro B. Okay, cities in G2 would be assigned to either G3 or G4. Okay, what will be the maximum reduction in the number of direct flights as compared to the situation before operational difficulties arose? Okay, now if you look at the previous one, we had 6 flights here, 6 flights here, 4 flights here and 4 flights here. Okay, now let's see how much this will change. Now between B and G3 this will remain unchanged, between C and G4 this will remain unchanged. Okay, let's see what happens in both the cities in G1, both the cities in G1. So for both the cities in G1 you will have, instead of 6 flights now, okay, A can have now let's see, from A you can have only from and to A there should be only from and okay, A, the only destination is B, okay, and return. Okay, only destination is, okay, let's look at one side flights. Only destination is A. From A there is only one flight which is B. Okay, from B there will be 2 flights, one to A, one to C, and from C there will be only one flight which will be to B. So these 6 flights become 1 plus 2 plus 1, this will become 4. Okay, what happens to these G2 cities? Now instead of G2 cities which will be going to A, these G2 cities will either go to B or C. Okay, so from the first city in G2, there will be 2 flights, one to G2 and one from G2. It can be to either B or C. Similarly, 2 here, 2 here. Okay, so total 6 flights. So these 6 flights remain the same. Okay, so the only change comes is this 6 becomes 4. Others remain exactly the same. So instead of 20 flights in the morning, it will drop to 18 in the morning. Now when you will schedule, 18 in the morning will mean 18 in the evening. So 36 overall flights. Okay, now previously we had 40 overall flights. Now it has become 36 overall flights. Maximum reduction will be 4. Maximum reduction will be 4. That will be your correct choice. See, the only change which is happening is in the first case. Instead of going to A, they have got a new place. They can either go to B, either go to C. But still you need to operate 2 flights. From B to say X and return, or from C to X and return. It can be only 2 flights. So 2 into 3, 6 flights remain the same. Only change happens in the first case. So instead of 6, it became 4 flights in the morning. Total of 18 flights in the morning. Similarly, 18 flights in the evening. Overall 36 flights every day. Okay, initially we had 40. It's a reduction of 4. Okay, so this completes this set. This was, as we said earlier, this is more of a permutation, combination and counting sort of method sets. This was not very difficult, but you had to be careful in 2 parts. One is you had to look at both onward as well as return journeys, as well as you also need to make sure you had taken care of the morning flights as well evening flights.
A lot of students miss out on good B schools because they simply don't apply and they are ignorant. They don't do any research beyond the IIMs and they are more worried about their profile and academics, etc., rather than actually getting into a good B schools and making a career in the management field. If you would like personalized B school assistance, all you need to do is fill up the Google document. Link is available in the description of this video, and we'll send you individual B school recommendations which fit your profile and your career aspirations. Okay, so it says 4 experts, E1, E2, E3, E4, rated 3 features, F1, F2, F3, each for 2 products, P1 and P2, giving integer ratings from 1 to 10. So the integer ratings are from 1 to 10. You have table 1 lists a triplet, table 2 gives the minimum and maximum, table 3 lists the average ratings of each of the features. Okay, and then you have queries. As I said earlier, these are all theta questions. There are no options. So let's try to visualize what is the data which is given to you and how it is presented in this table. Okay, so there are 4 experts, E1, E2, E3 and E4. These 4 people have rated 3 features for 2 products, P1 and P2. So there are 2 features, F1, F2, F3 for product 1. And similarly for product 2 also, they are listing out features F1, F2, F3. So you will have 4 into 3, 12 points, and 4 into 3, 12 points. So you will have 24 data points which are available to you. And this is the summary of those 24 data points, right? So let's see what actually it says. Table 1 lists a triplet, each comprising minimum, average and maximum rating for each feature across the products. So if you were to read table 1 says P1 for feature 1 has given P1 got a rating of minimum rating was 3, maximum rating was 9, and the average of all the ratings was 6.5. So P1's feature 1, right, across the 4 experts, right, the minimum was 3. One of them gave a 3, one of them gave a 9, and the overall average was 6.5. Right, if you take the average of these 4 ratings, it will be 6.5. Similarly, for feature 2, we have the values. Feature 3, we have the values. So table 1 is basically column-wise information across the 2 products. Right, this is table 1. Right, let's see what table 2 says. Table 2 lists the minimum and maximum rating given by each expert to individual products across the features.
So according to table 2, E1 has given a minimum rating of 3 for P1 for P1 and a maximum rating of 7. So if you were to look at the 3 ratings which are given, one of them is going to be 3, one of them is going to be 7, but we don't know what the third rating is going to be, and we don't know the order in which it is given. Similarly for P2, one of the ratings is going to be 4, one of the ratings is going to be 9, and the other rating has to be between 4 and 9, both inclusive, right? So it is a row wise value which is given. So table 2 is row wise. This is table 2. Okay, let's see what table 3 says. Table 3 says list the average of ratings given to each feature by each product across the products. Average of ratings given to each feature by each product. So if you were to look at it, E1 has given an average of 6 across the 2 products on feature 1. So if you take the feature 1 score of P2 and feature 1 score of P1, the average of these two is 6. So both of them can be 6, it can be 7, 5, it can be 8, 4, it can be 9, 3, it can be 10 and 2 also, right? We don't know the exact values. So similarly for F2, similarly for F3. So this is how the data is actually being given to you. Now let's try to go through the individual questions and then try to do this in a slightly cleaner manner and work out one part at a time. All right, so I have actually tabulated, as we discussed earlier, what the data represents. So table 1 basically represents the minimum, maximum and average of the values column wise. Table 2 gives you row wise minimum and maximum, and table 3 gives you average across the 2 cells. Right. We also need to figure out what are the questions that we need to answer, so we can prioritize those before we start. Now, question 1 says how many points E2 gives to P1 in F2. E2 gives to P1 in F2. So this is the question which you need to answer. Okay. Question 2 says how many points E3 gives to P2. E3 gives to P2 in F3. Okay, so this is the question, this is the point we need to capture. Question number 3 says what is the average of the ratings given by E1 to P1 in all 3 features. E1 to P1 in all 3 features. So this is what is given. We don't have it row wise, we just have minimum and a maximum. We don't know the third value, so cannot directly calculate that. And question number 4 says what is the sum of all the ratings given by E2. So we need to add this and we need to add this, right? So these are the data points that we need to answer, right? Let's get on with it. Now, if you have had some experience of solving all these optimization based sort of problems, it's usually the easiest to start with either the lowest or the highest values in the table. Now we know the lowest score is 1, the highest score is 10. Right, so let's start with the highest. So there is a 10 here, there's a 10 here, there's a 10 here. So let's try to fix where the 10 might actually come up. Now, what does it say? Now, table 2 says E4 has given between 6 to 10, has given between 6 to 10 for P1, right, and between 7 to 10 for P2, right. And if you look at F1 on feature 1, P2 has gotten a 10 in feature 1 by one of these 3, one of the 4 experts, right? On feature 1, P2 has gotten a 10. He has not gotten a 10 on feature 2. He has not gotten a 10 on feature 3. So, yeah, this one. So so P2 will get a 10 in this column. P2 has to get a 10 in this column. Similarly, if I look at table 2, P2 has to get a 10 in this row because E4 has given 10 to P2 in one of the 3 features. So the intersection of these two, if you were to look at the intersection of these two, that's E4 in feature 1, right, by P2, right? So this should be a 10. By the same logic, using the same logic, on feature 2, P1 has gotten a 10. Nowhere else has he gotten a 10. right? So he's going to get a 10 in this column. Similarly, he is going to get a 10 in this row. Nowhere else does he get this, right? The intersection is this. So in feature 2, P1, E4 is given a 10, right? So this part is done. Now let's use a third table. What does the third table say? The third table says that E4 in feature 1 has given an average of 9.5. So average of feature 1 scores should be 9.5, right? So across 2, average is 9.5, which means the total should be 19. Now we already know feature 1 he's gotten a 10. So for P2, so for P1 he should have awarded a 9. Similarly, if you work on feature 2 the average is 9. You have gotten a 10. 9 average of 9 across 2 features across 2 products will basically give you a total score of 18. 9 into 2, 18. One of them is 10, so the other one should be an 8, right? What else do we know? We also know that the minimum score in this row, the minimum score in this row has to be 6, right? Now we already have accounted for 10, the maximum. Minimum score has to be 6, so that has to be feature 3. Similarly, feature 3 here, minimum score is the one unaccounted for, so this is 7, right? From this row, minimum has to be 7. We already have the maximum. We know this other one is 8, so this has to be 7. And you can verify 6 and 7 is 13, average of 6 and 7 is 6.5. So we have used up this information. We have used up this information as well. Now let us look at the lowest number, because there are too many 9s. The next lower after 10 is 9, and there are too many 9s on the board. So let's look at the lowest one, which is 1. There's only one 1 on the board, right, which is for E2. E2 for P2. So one of these 3 cells has to be a 1, right? Similarly, if you look at F3, that's the only 1 on the board. Nowhere else can you place a 1. So for F3, you can place a 1. So intersection of this, E2 for F3 for product P2. So this has to be a 1. So that is pretty easy to work with now. Now, we also know the average of 2 F3s is 5 as per the third table. How do you get 5? From 2 observations. 5 is basically the sum should be 10. 5 into 2, 10. So one of them is 1, the other one should be a 9. So I know this also for sure. Now this is a nice breakthrough, because I need to find this cell out, right? So out of these 4 cells, I already know 2 cells. What are these 4 cells? The 4 cells will be minimum is 1, maximum is 8. There is no 8 as of now. So one of the observations is 8. What will be the last observation? The last observation, the sum of the average of this column is 5.75. So which means the sum should be 5.75 into 4. 5.75 into 2 is 11.5, into 2 is 23. So the sum total will be 23. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. So the last observation will be a 7. So you know one of the observations is a 7. One of the observations is a 8. Right? One of the observations is 7. One of the observation is a 8. So this can be 8 or 7. And this 7 or 8. And this will also be 7 or 8. Right? This is what we have. So I can now delete this because I've used up this entire column. Now let's look at F3 for product 1. F3 for product 1. Now again, I know 2 of the observations. I know the minimum has to be 2. So one of the observations here has to be a 2. Right? The maximum is 9, which is already done. And the total would be 5.75 into 4, which is again 23. 9 plus 6 is 15. 15 plus 2 is 17. So the last value should be a 6. So it should be 2 or 6. And this should also be 2 or 6. Now I will use a third table to figure out the
actual values. Now, according to the third table, for E1, right, the average of the ratings in products across the products for feature 3 should be 7. Right, now your values can be 2, 6 or 7, 8. Now if I combine 2 with 7, the total will be only 9, but the average will not be 7. For an average to be 7, the total should be equal to 14. 2 plus 7 gives you a 9. 2 plus 10 gives you a 2 plus 8 gives you a 10. So it cannot be 2. It has to be a 6, which means this has to be 2. Which also means F3 for P2 should be to get an average of 7, 6 plus 8 will give you 14, and this will be 7. 2 plus 7 gives you 9, average is 4.5. So I have already answered one of the questions. This number has to be a 7. Let us erase what is already done. This column is used up. This is used up. This is used up. Now what else do we have? In E1, we know the minimum, maximum here. Similarly, I know the values here. If you observe, the minimum should be 3, maximum should be 7. But neither 3 nor 7 is known here. We know the third value, but we don't know the minimum or the maximum. So one of them should be 3, other should be 7. Similarly, for product 2 also, the minimum should be 4, maximum should be 9. But we know the third value, neither the minimum nor the maximum. So it should be 4 or 9. This should be 4 or 9. Again, just as we followed for this, we can do some trial and error and get these values. If I take 3, I need an average of 6. 3 plus 9 will give you 6. 3 plus 4 will give you only a 7. And 7 plus 4 gives you 11. 7 plus 9 gives you a 16. So 3 has to match with 9 and 7 has to match with 4. 7 plus 4 gives you 11. Average is 5.5. So we know this is 3. This is 7. F1 should be 9 and F2 should be 4. So this is also done. You can erase this safely now. You can erase this also safely. Now I can answer one more question, which is basically what was the sum of the values or the average of the values. So another question is done. Okay, now we have, okay, let's try with P2 F1. P2 F1 because the values are all close, 8, 9 and 10. So in this, the minimum value should be 8, maximum value should be 10, average should be 9, which means the total should be 36. Total should be 36, out of which we have already got 10 and 9, and the third value is 8. 10 plus 9 plus 8 is 27, which means the last value should be a 9. Right, so you have to fit a 8 or a 9 here. 8 is missing, 9 is missing. Right, this has to be an 8 or a 9. Now if you look at E2 from table 2, for E2 P2, E2 for product P2, the ratings should be in the range 1 to 8. So the minimum should be 1, maximum should be 8. There cannot be a 9 here. So this F1 should be 8 by E2 and 9 by E3. This is done. So I can easily fit the average using this. 8, you need to get 6.5. 6.5 into 2 is 13. So 13 minus 8, this value should be 5. And to get a 9 with an average of 9, this has to be a 9. You can cross verify for this column. Okay, this column is done. So let's look at this column. The minimum should be 3, maximum should be 9, and the average should be 6.5, which means the total should be 6.5 into 4. 6.5 into 2 is 13, 13 into 2 is 26. Sum should be 26. 9 2s are 18, 18 plus 8 is 26. So this verifies as well. Now the only thing left is the last one, which you can fill up very easily. That is the only value left. Okay, so in this row, there should be a 1. There should be a 4. Minimum is 4, that is missing, which means this value should be 4 to get an average of 6. 12, 12 minus 4, this should be 8. And right, what should be the value? We can stop here because this is done. Just for academic purposes, if you want to figure out the last value, if you look at the column here, this is 4, maximum should be 9. and the average should be 7.25. 7.25 into 4, 7.25 into 2 is 14 and a half, into 2 is 29. So this column should add up to 29. 8 2s are 16, 16 plus 13 is 29. This matches. And let's check what this value, this average is 6 and a half, which means 13, and this should be 4. You can verify with this column. Minimum should be 4, maximum should be 10, average should be 6.25. 6.25 into 4 is 25, so this should add up to 25. 7 plus 4 is 11, 11 plus 4 is 15, 15 plus 10 is 25. This also matches. Everything is in range, right? I have solved everything, pretty much solved the entire set. Let's mark the answers and finish this off. Question number 1 says, how many points E2 gives P1 in F2? E2 gives P1 in F2. That's 4. Question number 2, how many points E3 gives to P2 in F3? E3 gives to P2 in F3. So 7. This is the value. Question number 3, what is the average rating given by E1 to P1 in all three features? E1 to P1 in all three features. So average of these. 7 plus 6, 13. 13 plus 3 is 16. 16 divided by 3 is 5.33. Right? And the last one, what is the sum of all the ratings given by E2? Sum of these ratings. 5 plus 4, 9. 9 2s are 18. 18 plus 9, 27. 27 plus 8 is 35. Very interesting set. Very, you need to be very patient while you're solving it. You need to break it down into parts. First, we have to figure out how the data is actually represented. Then we have to figure out which are the cells which are relevant for the answer and try to get them as quickly as possible. It's a moderate to slightly difficult set. If you get stuck anywhere with respect to preparing for LRDI, there are some free resources which are available on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist on how to prepare for LRDI. It includes which are the topics which you need to focus on, how much do you need to spend on each area. Also, we tell you how to go about picking sets in the examination. Right? So if you are not able to pick even a single set, this is a good framework to start with and build on for your CAT LRDI preparation. If you want any further assistance in terms of speaking with us, getting personal guidance, doing more practice, following a more structured path to LRDI preparation, please do look at our Ultimate LRDI course. Bank has built a software to identify potential defaulters of a loan. The study of loans given last year was conducted using this software. It was found that the software correctly identified 80% of those who eventually defaulted on their dues. However, the software also incorrectly classified 20% of the regular payers of the loans as defaulters. Okay. Last year, a quarter of the borrowers of the bank eventually defaulted on their due payments of the loan. The bank expects the same level of defaults among loan applicants this year as well. This year, bank has received 1 lakh applications of 10 lakh each. In order to minimize the loss on account of defaults, the bank decides to offer loans only to those applicants who are not identified by the software as potential defaulters. Assume that on average, only 50% of the loan amount is retrieved from those who default on the due payments of the loan. Okay, and then you have questions: how many loans are expected to be approved, how many defaults are there. This is direct questions, and then for 3 and 4 you have some additional information to solve this. Okay, so let's quickly go through what this actually says. So according to the bank, it has built a software which can identify 80% of those who eventually defaulted. Okay, so let's take a number. Suppose a bank gets 1,000 people applications. Right, some of them will be bad, some of them will be good. So these good people will actually repay their loans on time, they will not default. These bad people will default on their loans. What is the expected ones? Last year, a quarter of the borrowers eventually defaulted. So out of 1,000 people, 250 people will default and 750 people will be good. This will be your without any software. So bank will approve these 1,000 loans. 750 people will be good, 250 will be bad, these people will default, these people will pay the money. Now with the software, let's see what happens. With the software correctly identified 80% of those who eventually defaulted. So out of these 250, it will be able to filter out 200 people. 80% will be filtered out. So only 50 people will pass through and their applications will be approved by the bank. Only these 50 people will now default on the loans. Further, the software also incorrectly classified 20% of the regular payers as defaulters. What it will also do is, it will also remove 20% here. 20% is 1/5. 150 people will be removed from here. So only 600 people will get their loans approved. So initially, out of 1000 approvals, 750 will be good, 250 will be bad. But with the software, out of 1000, only 600 plus 50, 650 people will be approved. Out of which 600 will be good and 50 will be bad, right? This is the criteria. And now you have to extend it to 1 lakh applications. Each application is worth 10 lakh each. And then you have 50% of the loan is retrieved and so on. We'll use it for the rest of the questions as and when we get there. Okay. Nothing much to do on this. Let's go to the questions and try to solve them. Okay, so I've written this down for 1000 applications. This is without the software. This is with the software. Obviously, the bank has said that it is going to use the software, right? Okay. Question number 1, how many loans are expected to be approved by the bank? Now, the bank is going to get 1 lakh applications, right? It's going to get 1 lakh applications. Out of every 1000 applications, 650 are approved. So out of 1 lakh, which is 100,000, it will be 650 into 100, which is 65,000 applications are going to be 65,000 loans are expected to be approved by the bank. Okay. Question number 2, how many defaults does the bank expect this year? Right. Now, the bank knows that out of 1000 applications, eventually 250 were supposed to default, but it can prevent 200 of these defaulters. So out of 1000 applications, only 50 will be defaulting. Only 50 will be defaulting. So out of 100,000 applications, it will be 50 into 100. That's 5,000 defaults are what it expects. So bank expects 5,000 loans to be defaulting. Okay. Question number 3. If the bank receives income of 20% of the loans repaid, how much total income can the bank expect this year? Assume that the bank has no other income other than loans. Now, this is where you need to look at the lakhs and this. Now, you need to enter the value in rupees crores. Now, a crore is 10 to the power 7. A lakh is 10 to the power 5. Right? So, we need to be clear about the units as such. Okay, so what do we have? Out of every 1000, 650 will be approved. Now, out of 650, 600 will be good customers. So, out of 65,000 applications, 60,000 will be good customers and 5,000 will be bad customers, defaulters. Right? So, you will see the profit from these 60,000 and subtract the loss from these 50,000 people. Okay. So let's see what will be the profit. Out of these 60,000 people, right, each of them gets a 10 lakh rupee loan, right, into 10. 10 into 10 lakhs. 10 into 1 lakh, right? So 10 to the power 5, right? What is the earning? Earning is 20%, so 1/5. This will be the profit from these. This will be the profit from these 60,000 customers. So this is 2. So I need it in crores. So I'll take out these 2 zeros and these 5 zeros. So my answer will be in crores now. Right. So 600 into 2. So 1200 crores is your income from these. 1200 crores is your income from good customers. Now, what will be the loss from the bad customers? Out of 5,000 people, you'll again give them 10 lakh rupee loan. So 10 to the power 5 into 10. That will be the loan given, right? But they are going to pay only 50% of the loan amount. So forget about profit. You are going to lose 50% of the money out there, right? So half of the amount is actually going to be lost because you're not going to be able to recover from that. So this principal itself is gone. So this is 5. Again, we'll do the same calculation. So take out 7 zeros from here. You're calculating in crores. This is 50 into 5, 250 crores is your loss from here. So 1200 crores profit, 250 crores loss, overall 950 crores of net profit is expected for the bank. 950 crores will be your correct answer. And the last one, this uses information from the previous one. Okay. The risk division has developed a new version that claims to identify 90% of the potential defaulters. Okay. So instead of 80%, you are able to clear 90%. However, the new version will incorrectly classify 25% of the regular payers of loans as defaulters. Assuming it will take 10 crores to deploy the new version, all the other conditions remain the same. Which of the following versions will be true? There will be greater number of loans approved with the newer software, and the newer version is expected to deliver greater profits than the older version. Okay, now I know from the older software, 950 crores is the expected profit, right? We need to do two things. One is to figure out how many approvals are going to be there and what will be the net profit, even accounting for 10 crores of the cost which is take to deploy the software. Okay, and your options are 1 is true, 2 is false, 2 is true, 1 is false, both of them are true, both of them are false. Okay, now we know from previous questions that 65,000 was the approval based on the old software. So for the new software, let's see what the approval is going to be. Now out of the 1,000, for every 1,000 applications, right, 250 were defaulters, right? Now it is going to identify 90%, so it will remove 225. So only 25 will get approval, right? Out of the good customers, now it's going to remove 25% over there. 25%, 1/4 is there. So okay, let me add one more 0 so that the number doesn't look bad. Okay, so 7,500. Half of them will be 3,750. Half of them will be 1,875. 1,875 will be gone. So balance will be 2,574. 5625 plus 250 will be 5,875. If you add one more 0, which is 1 lakh applications, you'll have one more 0 here as well, 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 here as well. Right. So 58,750 applications are going to be approved this year. Right. Last year it was, with the original software, it is going to be 65,000. So 58,750 is going to be done. So the newer version will obviously not have greater number of applications. So first statement is false. So option A is out, option C is out. Now let's check the second statement. Second statement says the newer version is expected to deliver greater profits than the older version. Now older version has 950 crores of profit. Let's see what the newer version is going to deliver. Right. Out of this 56,250, again you're going to get 20% of 10 lakhs each. Okay, so it is 5,6,250. 10 lakhs, so 10 to the power 6. 20% will be 20% will be 1 by 5. So it will be 10 to the power 5 into 2. Right. This is going to be a profit from the people who are going to pay. 56,250. So into 2. So 56 into 2. You can use a calculator if you want. It's 1125. This is going to be 1125. This will become crores. 1125 crores. That's going to be your income from the people who are going to pay 1125 crores. Now, for the people who are going to default, 2,500 people are going to default. Right. What is going to be the loss? 2,500 into half of 10 lakh rupees. 10 into 10 to the power 5. So these many crores. That's 5 into 25. 625 crores is 125 crores is going to be a loss. So you're going to make 1,000 crores of profit. Right. From this, you have to subtract 10 crores for deployment of the software. So that's 990 crores. Right. So the new software, even after the deployment cost, is going to cost you 990 crores. Going to give you a profit of 990 crores. The old software gave you 950 crores. Obviously, the newer software gives you better profit. So second statement is true. First is false. Second is true. Option B will be your correct choice. It's a wonderful question. You need to be very clear about your percentages, probability, expected value. It combines all those into one single unifying question. In an exam situation, it can be extremely painful. You can miss out on a couple of things. People found it extremely difficult in an exam situation. But if you do it on a calm basis, it's not a very difficult question. Especially the last one is the only one which requires a lot of calculation. You have a calculator available with you. We did not use a calculator. That took us a longer time. But even with a calculator, with proper understanding of what the questions, etc. is, it's going to take you 12 to 13 minutes to solve this in an exam situation. Moderate to difficult, I mean, you're more likely to classify it in a difficult category in an exam situation. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on the notifications button so that you are notified when we are releasing our next set of videos. Please do like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with us, you can connect with us through WhatsApp and Telegram as well. All the relevant links are available in the description of this particular video. Okay, this is a set which has a decent amount of data, right? It says Rahul is preparing for the CAT examination. As a part of the last mile preparation, he enrolls for 3 mock test providers: Samay, PL, SMS. Each provider has given him 10 mock CATs to be taken over 10 weeks. Rahul was analyzing his performance in this test. However, due to a glitch in the software, the last digit of his scores was erased. He could salvage the following information regarding his mock test scores. W1, W2, etc. represents week 1, week 2, and so on. So in week 1, in Samay, he scored, okay, so the last digit is erased. So this score could be 100, it could be 101, it could be 102, it can be from anywhere from 100 to 109. That can be his score. Similarly, in PL, he could score from 130 to 139. In SMS, he can score from 160 to 169, and same with all the others as well. So this could be from 90 to 99, 130 to 139. But this score cannot be 140, right? Or 128. Cannot be any of those scores. It has to be from 130 to 139. So this is what is given to us across the different weeks. Okay. Further, it is also known that Rahul completes all the tests in a particular week before moving to tests for the next week. So he'll complete week 1's tests, Samay, PL, SMS, then he'll go to week 2, then he'll go to week 3, week 4, and so on. It is also given in a given week, Rahul always takes the test provided by Samay before the test provided by PL. Then he takes the test provided by PL before test provided by SMS. So the order is going to be this. So he'll first take this test. This will be the second test, this will be the third test, then this will be the fourth test, fifth test, sixth test, seventh test, eighth test, ninth test, and so on. So this is the order in which he is proceeding. And the last one says the scores obtained by Rahul in any mock test is a positive integer. Okay. Right, so that is what we have. If you look at the questions, first one says weekly average is defined as the average scores of Rahul across the 3 tests. So we'll have to average out all the weeks. Okay. Second one says how how many of the following scores can represent the average of the weekly averages as defined in the previous question? Okay, again, you'll have to use the averages. Third one says a streak is defined as a number of tests where score increase when compared to the previous one. Okay, this does not require calculation. And fourth says Rahul is said to have a balanced score when the score obtained is equal to the average of the test scores in the test immediately preceding and immediately succeeding that test. Okay, so this also does not require a lot of calculation. So we can first try 3 and 4, and then because you have to calculate averages, we can try first and second. So let's start with third and fourth, and then go to questions 1 and 2. Okay, so I have summarized this information. Question number 3 says a streak is defined as a number of tests where the scores increase from one test to the next when the scores are arranged in the order of taking the test. Okay, what could be the longest streak obtained by Rahul? So the score should continuously increase, definitely increase, right? Not definitely, but could have continuously increased when looked at one test to the other. Now we know the order is like this. You will first finish week 1, then finish week 2, then finish week 3, then finish week 4, then finish week 5, then finish week 6, then finish week 7, and so on. So you need to look at a streak over here, right? And we know first is Samay, then PL, then SMS, then Samay, then PL, SMS. Okay, let's see what the streak can be. Now 10, this can be 100 to 109. This could be from 130 to 139. So definitely there can be an increase, and there can be an increase. But from a score which is from 160 to 169 to a score which is 120 to 129, there cannot be an increase. So the streak stops here. So this streak is length 3, 10, 13, 16. Okay, let's look at this. From 12 to 9, okay, it's actually a drop. So there cannot be any streak here. Let's check the next streak. From 9 to 13, there can be an increase. From 13 to 13, there can be an increase. For example, this score can be 131, this score can be 134. So there can technically be, theoretically be an increase. So again, you can have a streak of 3. It will stop at 3 because after 13 is 9. So there's a definite drop. So it stops here. From 13 to 8, again there's a drop. Cannot be a streak. Okay, let's try the next one. From 8 to 8, there can be a streak. 8 to 10, there can be a streak. 10 to 13, there can be a streak. 13 to 15, there can be a streak. But 15 to 9 cannot be a streak. Okay, so this streak is pretty lengthy. If you look at this, if you take these 5 tests, okay, let me just erase this. If you take these 5 tests, it can represent a streak, and a pretty decent streak. This could be 81, this could be 85, so it can be an increase. This is definitely an increase, this is definitely an increase, this is definitely an increase. So this streak can be 5. So instead of a streak of 3, you can increase it to a streak of 5. Now let's see if we can improve on this. 15 to 9 is a drop. Okay. 9 to 14 increase, 14 to 15 it's an increase, but 15 to 13 it's a definite drop. So this is out. Okay, 15 to 13 is a drop, 13 to 10 is a drop. Okay, now let's try this. 10 to 12 is an increase, 12 to 13 is an increase, 13 to 15 is an increase, but 15 to 14 is not an increase. So this streak is a streak of only 4. But we already have a 5, so we don't need to worry about it. Okay, now let's try this. 15 to 14 is a drop, 14 to 11 is a drop, 11 to 9 is a drop. Okay, 9 to 12, 12 to 10, okay, again a drop. So this is only a streak of 2. 10 to 9 it's a drop, 9 to 11 is an increase, 11 to 11 is an increase, but 11 to 10 is a drop. Okay, so the maximum streak is 5. This is more of an observation question. This should not take you as much time as I've given you because I've explained it in more detail. But in an actual exam situation, this should take you about minute and a half max. Okay, let's try question number 4. Question number 4 says Rahul is said to have achieved a balanced score when the score obtained by him in a particular test is equal to the average of the scores in the test immediately preceding and immediately succeeding that particular test. How many times did he get a balanced score in week 3 to 7? Okay.
Okay, so from week 3 to 7, okay, so you figure out whether he could have achieved a balanced score. Okay, so for example, this 13, can it be average of these two tests? Can it be an average of the test before it and the test after it? You scored between 130 to 139. Can this be an average of 130 to 139 and 90 to 99? Can this be an average of this? Now, let me illustrate this and we can use this very quickly for the others as well. Okay, so the minimum average would be these two, right? 130 plus 90 will be 220 divided by 2 will be 110, or if I were to just use the first digit, it will be around 11. All right, and if you take the very last part, 139 plus 99, 139 plus 99 will be 238, right? Divided by 2 will be 119, so 11.9. So the average we can quickly calculate will be the highest value here, lowest value and lowest value, right? Average of the lowest values, or average of the lowest value plus 0.9. Why? Because this can increase by 9, this can increase by 9, the average can increase by 9 plus 9 divided by 2, which is 9. But that 9 comes to, when you divide it by 10, because you're losing the last digit, it will come as 0.9. Right? So once you do this, you can quickly estimate the average. So this is 11 to 11.9. Now 11 to 11.9 cannot be approximated as 13. So this is out. 8 and 13. Can the average come to 9? 8 and 13 is 10.5. So the minimum average itself is 10.5. Cannot be 9, right? 9 and 8. Can it come out to somewhere in the 8 range? 9 plus 8 is 17. 17 divided by 2 is 8.5. It can be in this range. So this is one case. Okay. Now let's try the next one. 8 and 10. Can it result in an average of 8? No. 18. Minimum itself is 9. So out. Okay. 8 and 13. Can it result in an average of 10 to 11? Possible. 8 to 13 is 21. 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. Possible. This is there. 10 and 15, can it result in an average of 13? Yes. 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. 12.5 plus 0.9 will be 13.4, which comes in this range. So possible. 13 and 9 cannot result in 15. So this is out. 14 and 15 cannot result in 9. This is out. 9 and 15, can it result in 14? 9 plus 15 is 24. 24 by 2 is 12. Maximum will be 12.9. So no, not possible. 14 and 13, can it result in 15? No. 15 and 10, can it result in 13? Yes. 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. Again, the same scenario, right? So this is possible. 13 and 12, can it result in a 10? No. 10 and 13, can it result in a 12? 10 plus 13 is 23. 23 divided by 2 is 11.5. The range will be from 11.5 to plus 0.9. That's 12.4. Possible. Right. 12 and 15. Can it result in 13? 12 and 15 is 27. Divided by 2 is 12.5. Again, add a 0.9. 13.4. Possible. This is also possible. Right. 13 and 14. Can it result in 15? No. So between week 3 and week 7, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this was not the case, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times it is there. Again, I am illustrating it. It takes longer in an exam situation. It probably should take you about 2 minutes to solve this one. Now, question 1 and 2 basically requires you to find the average. Now to find the average, we will need to find the sum, right? So let me just
quickly find the sum here. Okay, I will just use the 3 digits. We will add the last digit. We'll just use the 2 digits. We'll add the third digit later on. For example, 8 plus 10 plus 13 is 23 plus 8, 31. So 15 plus 9 plus 14, that's 24 plus 14, 38. So I can write this down completely. So let me just quickly summarize this. So I'll reach this stage, right? This will probably take you about a minute from where we were to reach. Okay, now how to find the, let me find the total first. Okay, so this can be 10, this can be 130. The minimum will be 10, 13, 16. So it can be from 100 to 109, 130 to 139, 160 to 169. So the minimum total will be 100 plus 130 plus 160. That's 390. That will be the minimum. What will be the maximum? The maximum value will be, if this becomes 109, this becomes 139, this becomes 169. So add 9, add 9, add 9. So add 27 to this. 390 plus 27 will be 417. Similarly, this total will be 340. Add 27, so 367. This will be 300. Add 27, that will be the maximum, 327. This will be 310. Add 27, this will be 337. Add 10, this will be 380. Add 27, 407. And so on, we can do it. So I've quickly done this. Right, now, let's see, I have the totals now, so averages should not be very difficult, but let's see what this says. First one says, the weekly average is defined as the average score of Rahul across the 3 tests attempted in the given week. Okay, so for example, in week 1, his average will be 390 divided by 3, between 130 to 417 divided by 3. 417 divided by 3 will be 133. Sorry, 139, right? It's going to be between 130 and 139. Again, this will be divided by 3. This will be divided. We can keep on doing it. Okay. Question says, which of the following weeks is it impossible for Rahul to achieve the lowest weekly average? Impossible for Rahul to attain the lowest weekly average. Okay. Now, you need to be 100% sure that that week cannot be the lowest. Now, to give you an example, let's see how to do it. In week 1, his minimum possible score is 390 if you add the 3. Right. So if your total is the lowest, your average will also be the lowest. Similarly, if your total is higher, your average is also going to be higher because everything is going to be divided by 3. Now, if you take this, can week 1 ever be lesser than week 2? It's not going to be possible, right? Because the highest possible in week 2 is 367. The highest value of week 2 is lower than the lowest possible of week 1. So irrespective of what the actual scores are, week 1 will always be bigger than week 2. So you know for sure that week 1 cannot be lower than week 2, which means week 1 cannot be the lowest across the scores as well. Anyways, week 1 is not in the options anyways, but just to illustrate this point. So you need to check between week 2, week 3, week 4 and week 10. Right. So let's check week 2 and week 3. If you check week 2 and week 3, can week 2 ever be higher than ever be lower than week 3? It's not possible, right? The lowest possible for week 2 is higher than the highest possible of week 3. So week 2 can never be the lowest among the given one. But can week 3 be the lowest? Between week 3 and week 4. If you look at week 3 and week 4, there's an overlap. Week 3 is 300 to 327. Week 4 is 337, 310 to 337. Now, it can be that week 3 is 300 and week 4 is somewhere here. But it is also possible that week 3 is 327. Week 3 is 327 and
week 4 is 328. It is also possible because the score is in this range. So because there's an overlap, you cannot be sure that week 3 is lower than week 4 or week 4 is lower than week 3. But we know that week 2 is definitely going to be higher than week 3 and therefore cannot be the lowest overall. So again, does not require much work after this particular part. Okay, it's the understanding which is more important. Okay, and once you have created the table here like this, neatly written it down, second one should not be very difficult. How many of the following scores can represent the average of the weekly averages as defined in the question? Average of the weekly averages across the question. So basically this is the total. So I need to check multiplied by 3, everything multiplied by 3. Can the overall average, if I take the average of all this, can it be 345? This will be 351. This will be 366. Can it be 378? Can it be 384? 390? Can it be in any of these ranges? So let's quickly calculate the overall average. Let's see how much it is. So if you take a rough estimate of 350 as the overall average, right, almost everything is there. So let's try that. So total will be 350 into 10, 3500. Now let's see what the deviations are. This is plus 40 over 350. This is plus 40. This is minus 10. This is minus 50. This is minus 40. This is plus 30, plus 30. This is plus 50. This is minus 10. This is minus 40. This is minus 30. Now this has to be done in your head. I'm just writing it down to illustrate what I'm doing, right? Minus 40 minus 10 will be plus 30. 40 minus 10 is 30. 30 minus 50 is minus 20. Minus 20 minus 40 is minus 60. Minus 60 plus 30 is minus 30. Minus 30 plus 30 is 0. 0 plus 50 is 50. 50 minus 10 is 40. 40 minus 40 is 0. And 0 minus 30 is minus 30. So 3470 is the total across 10 tests. Divided by 10 will be 347. So on the lower side, your overall score will be 347. On the higher side, the sum will be 347 plus 27, 374. So your final numbers should be between this range, 347 and 374, both inclusive. 347 and 374, both inclusive. 345 is not in there. 351 is there. 366 is there. 378, 384 and 390 are not there. So 2 of the 6 scores can be the overall average of the averages. This is a pretty brilliant set in the sense like it looks like initially there's going to be a lot of calculation. There is some calculation. For example, we had to calculate the overall averages. But the first part, there are 2-3 questions which you can solve very quickly without doing a lot of calculations. You need to identify that. And then once you do the calculation also, you should be able to reuse the calculation and do it quickly as possible.
That completes this session on must-do sets for CAT LRDI preparation. Please do let us know in the comments below how you like this. Please do share this with your friends who are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, or you can connect with us on WhatsApp and Telegram groups. The links are all available in the description of this particular video. If you are facing any problem with CAT LRDI sets, you can look at our YouTube channel playlist on how to prepare for CAT LRDI. If you want any specialized, personalized attention on LRDI preparation in the most structured manner, you can also look at our Ultimate LRDI course. This is the most comprehensive course which is available in the market. Till we meet again the next time, goodbye and all the best.